Hello, everyone. Welcome to the September 3rd edition of the Contribex GitHub Administration Subproject meeting. This meeting is being recorded and will be uploaded to YouTube. We are subject to the Kubernetes Code of Conduct. Please be excellent to each other. Looks like we have a couple items trickling into the agenda. Looks like, Arnaud, you have the first one.
Hello, everyone. I talked to Gwen last week and we had a very session about the inactive member cleanup tool. We were discussing about how we gonna define the input of the inactive members. So we don't really know if you need to put it in the just YAML file and what could be the structure. Another question we have was like, once we do the cleanup, is the tool supposed to do a pull request? And if yes, what could be the content of the commit and the description of the pull request?
So, at least in my opinion, I don't know if it should open a pull request itself or if it should just act on the repo and then allow the author to create their own pull request in the description. I'm flexible as to like what you and Gwen think as far as that is concerned. If it does open a pull request, the description should probably be fairly simple, like just describing that this is an automated pull request opened by this tool and probably linking back to where the tool is. As far as the input from it, I think right now that input is being scraped from, like currently is being scraped from DevStats. So I think DevStats, we can, if we get a report set up in DevStats, we can, I think DevStats can export it straight as a CSV. And then that would probably be the easiest thing to use as an input. I'm just having a look right now. Anyone else have any thoughts on either of those questions?
At least for the automated pull requests one, like from the previous discussions with Bob, I think we wanted to go with like the bot creating a pull request because it then makes it less awkward for removing people. Because in the past, like whoever we were planning to remove, they've come up with reasons why they shouldn't be. But if a bot does it, it makes the whole process easier.
Okay.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I think it's fine for the moment. We need to think about how we're gonna implement all of this.
SQL JSON configuration. I don't see where the export button is. Looking at an example, but I think that's probably a good question for Lucas, who works on DevStats. Like, hey, what's the easiest way for us to create a report in DevStats with our input, and then be able to have that run on an automated basis, because that's kind of our source of truth as far as activity is concerned, rather than any other statistics. Because then also we have a dashboard that we can point back to, be like, yep, if you're showing as inactive, here's the query. It shows that you're inactive and you haven't been for so long. So yeah, I'd say the next step there as far as the inputs go is let's connect the dots between like Lucas and DevStats and this. This is also a good question for Bob, who's been running this for the last couple cycles, so to make sure that we're not missing anything. Cool. Any other questions or comments on this?
Probably if we can like see if the Prometheus instance which backs the devstats Grafana dashboard, if you can make a PromQL query to it, that probably can be a good endpoint to get our data. For example, we would have some heuristics like, hey, give me the list of members who have shown no activity in the last 1.5 years, and the bot just creates a PR out of it. And I saw that one flow is there where we give someone time to explain that why they are not, why they are being shown as inactive, because devstats usually shows the GitHub contributions, and someone might be active on Slack. So that corner case is something that we need to check for too.
Yeah. I think like DevStat isn't, as far as I know, isn't Prometheus based. I believe it's SQL based on the back end. So it's a SQL query as opposed to a PromQL query that pulls the data out. Like there's, if I remember correctly, there's periodic syncs and dumps from GitHub's kind of like archive endpoint that then are pumped into a SQL database.
Oh, okay, cool. I did not know that. Thanks.
But you do bring up a good point. Like maybe the bot should create an issue first, or create a PR and an issue with, and the issue contains a list of people who should be removed, and you give like a lazy consent. We'll give like a period where we'll wait until they're actually removed so that they have a chance to explain if they are active. I don't know.
Yep. So I think there are, like, we see two clear parts to it. One is like determining who are inactive, and then doing something which makes this list public and let people respond to that list. And the next part is once we determine, once we filter basically if someone is erroneously in that list, basically we prune that list, and then there is someone who reconciles that list with the actual state, basically removes them from any teams and any org which are there involved in. So it's like two parts to the problem.
It sounds like the issue, like looking over this specific issue, is for the second part, as opposed to it touching anything really in the first part. Because I agree, we probably need, like, I'm also intent-wise, Nikita, you originally opened this up. It doesn't sound from the issue intent-wise that this was necessarily like the fully automated end-to-end, this happens automatically and it's done by a bot account or something like that process. This issue sounds specifically like, okay, the tool to actually go, like, based on an input, go and remove everybody from any file that they are in.
Is it just me, or is Christoph frozen?
No, I was about to ask you some question.
Yeah, but we'll give him a minute to be back. But in general, I forgot what the real reason was when I created this issue. For now, at least, like, a script should definitely be good enough. Or something in Go, perhaps, not Bash. And if we want to automate that, we could use that binary to finally, like, if we want to have the automated pull request process at the end of the day. Christoph, we lost you in between, so I don't know if you.
Oh.
Now you're back.
Yes, I'm back. Yeah, I was just saying, like, yeah, it sounds like there's two parts to this, as everyone, like, pointed out. But do we this particular issue looks like it's just for part 2, as opposed to the full end-to-end like automated cycle. So maybe we need another issue to kind of discuss the full end-to-end. And then this tool that Gwyn and Arnaud are working on, I'd say like Arnaud, as far as inputs are concerned, like just a list, like a text-based list. I don't think we need to like shove this into YAML or anything like that. I think that would overcomplicate it. But just like a list of a text-based list of names as the input, and then the output is scrubbing them from any file. And then we can figure out the automation bits as far as how we get that list out of DevStats into a text-based or CSV list. And then, you know, what automation is actually going to open up the PR and stuff after. I'd say scoping your tool, I'd say let's just do the middle part, the text-based list to remove from every file.
That sounds perfect to me.
Cool.
That's fun.
And I'll start a thread in the GitHub management channel to figure out how that end-to-end could look like, and we could discuss it there.
Cool. Last call for comments on this one. Okay. So the next one is me. And it's basically just checking in on where we are with Incubator, which we are down to 1 repository. It's Cube AWS. This was the one that was decided, like, it sounds like there's like 1 or 2 maintainers for this tool that still want to keep it active. But the consensus among the various like SIGs that would have, you know, touch points on Cube AWS was nobody wants it. Nobody wants to maintain it right now as part of the Kubernetes project. There's alternatives that, in, you know, the opinion of like SIG cluster lifecycle and stuff, do it better than Cube AWS does. But there is still like a number of users behind Cube AWS as well as active maintainers. So the kind of consensus, this was like a July email thread I'm pulling up here. Discussion on the web. I'm going to link it. Yeah. So the current consensus is we archive it on our side. So the current repo, the current code as it was handled under the Kubernetes project, we shove it into our archive, effectively our graveyard, as the error pointed out. We archive it, and then if they want to fork it and take it from there, it's Apache 2. You can do that as long as you conform with Apache 2. You can keep doing that. But yeah, the repo as it is, we're just going to archive it and let them run with it. I guess the big thing is like timeline. I'm setting at this point, like, we haven't set a timeline. I don't think we've enforced anything. I think end of September is a very fair timeline of like, hey, do whatever you need to do as far as like automation and that kind of stuff in September, set up your repo. And then we're going to archive Incubator at where it is at the end of September, and then be done with it. Thoughts, feelings, objections? Is that reasonable? Is it unreasonable?
So, quick question about why do we need to wait until the end of September?
It would be any open issues or open PRs against the repo as it is. So like anything that's in flight right now, if they want to archive it sooner and they want to say like, hey, you know, as of September 10th or whatever, we're done, we can archive it because we've got all the PRs kind of retargeted to the new repo. great. But that would be the one. That'd be the one thing as far as a gap would be, is any open issues or any open PRs that they want to move over. They need to actually like move them, like recreate them and link to them and that kind of stuff, because we're not actually going to transfer the repo out and relinquish our copy of the code, because the current version of the code was authored by the Kubernetes authors. So we're still going to keep it in our archive.
If I missed it, are we going to move it to the graveyard or just keep it in the incubator in the archived state?
Into Kubernetes-retired, that org, because that's where all the rest of our archives are.
Okay. Isn't it a graveyard? I think that we had a graveyard.
It used to be called graveyard.
Okay.
We wanted something that was a little less, death, but yes, I think it's called Kubernetes retired right now, and that's where all the rest of our archived repos are.
Mm-hmm. Perfect. Yep, this makes sense for me.
And then the incubator as it is, we probably won't relinquish that org just because we don't want anybody like poaching the name, but we can go into Parabolos and we can strip out all the members and just like do whatever things we need to do to kind of hide that org as much as possible.
I'm not sure that we should remove all the members. Well, we have to remove all the active members, but keep all the admins, like the current group of people, plus all the necessary bots, like Linux Foundation bot, and it's just to clarify that we don't want to, that we're not going to remove just everybody and everything from there. So we need to have some backdoor keys to it in case of something.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, we remove all the like people at the member level, but all the owners, the bots and the GitHub owners we'll leave in there.
And actually, if you're curious, we have 151 members there and 9 admins, including 3 bots. Well, 2 bots plus 1 Linux Foundation service account.
Yeah. Okay. So last call, any other thoughts on the end of September date? Giving them 27 days to do what they need to do. Cool. I'm gonna make a note of that. Okay. Oh, thanks, Nikita. Ihor, you got the next one.
Yeah, so CNCF is working with Orbit. It's the new tool for the community analytics and all the related stuff, and we'd like to pilot it for Kubernetes project. It has been presented for the first time on July 29th meeting for the SIG contributor experience a bit more than a month ago. Chris Hanachik did that. We had pretty good feedback from the group, but we decided to push more activities after KubeCon. So we're back to the discussions with Orbit about piloting this stuff and so on. We have the next meeting of contributor experience group where we'll have folks from Orbit presenting this tool, and we'll discuss that triangle on the value of this for Kubernetes. I want to highlight it here mostly from the technical standpoint, less from the community value standpoint. So I've checked with Orbit today what are the permissions required for the tool, and they confirmed to me that it's only read on the permissions to the Kubernetes org. So nothing will be written by the tool if we'll implement it for Kubernetes. So I just want to confirm that this is fine from the technical standpoint. I mean, like, we'll make the final decision on the value of the tool after the general meeting. But the purpose of the current thread, since we didn't have enough items in the agenda today, I want to discuss this here simply.
Yeah, I'm just looking up the technical piece right now. So I just tossed the link in the channel. So yeah, read access to code, read access to issues, metadata, and pull requests. And then read access to emails, followers, starring, and watching for individual users that agree to that. So that, with those permissions based on, like, just from a technical standpoint, I don't have any objections. Like, if contributor experience says that, like, hey, this is the value and we should try this out, I don't have any technical objections to that.
Perfect.
Anybody else have any thoughts?
Just one question: what kind of data the tools collect? Is it collecting emails or something like that?
It looks like it will collect emails, but only if individual users give permission. Yeah. So in the chat, I linked to the Orbit GitHub integration page, like how to install it and set up the GitHub integration. And there's a picture under the installing the Orbit section where it lists the permissions. And this is all with the caveat of, like, when we actually go to install it, this is the actual permissions it requests. If it requests something different, then objection. But if it requests the things that it shows in the picture, so the things at the org level that we'd be granting permission to is code, issues, metadata, and pull requests, which, because the Kubernetes org, like the Kubernetes org proper itself, is all open source, there's no private repos in it, we're not giving access to anything that isn't public anyways by doing that. The email addresses would be individual user permissions. And I know myself, before I click and permit it to see my email addresses, I'd be looking through the privacy policy.
Great.
Okay. Last call, any objections? Okay. That brings us to time. Thank you everyone for joining. If there's anything else that anybody wants to bring up or discuss, there is the GitHub management channel on the Kubernetes Slack, or the SIG contributor experience channel, or the SIG contributor experience mailing list. If you need to reach the GitHub admins directly and privately, github@kubernetes.io. Thank you everyone. We'll see you next month.